Hello, my name is Linda Nash and I'm Chair for the Panel for Advising Governors. Well, the panel was set up in response to the new Health and Social Care Act in 2012, where it said the regulators may wish to set up a panel to advise governors that was independent. And the remit of the panel is then to advise governors on any questions that they may have or worries they have that their trust is about to or is in breach of its own constitution or in breach of the legal statutory requirements of setting up a foundation trust. So that's the official version. The unofficial that comes with that is it's fundamentally about supporting governors and helping them to fulfil their statutory duties, but at the same time trying to encourage a good working relationship between them and the board of directors that actually fulfills the accountability, infrastructure and integrity of a foundation trust model. The most important thing is the governor's role in the accountability model of the foundation trust, and in order for them to do that and to fulfil their statutory duties, it's important that they get the right advice and the right information and the right development. And the NHS Panel for Advising Governors has been set up in order to give them independent advice to help them fulfil their statutory duties, but most important, to also encourage them to develop a really strong, positive working relationship with the board of directors as they're taking their trust forward. We've got about 18 members of the panel, and they vary in their experience and expertise, in the fact that some of them are directors of current foundation trusts, a few of them have got legal expertise, some have financial expertise, HR expertise, and we have also some governors within that panel. And so they would be called upon depending on the nature of the question and the inquiry that we receive, depending on the experience and skills that are needed. Well, we've had about 22 in the last 2 years, but the requirements for actually getting a panel convened is quite stringent, and it's laid down in statute, and it has to be that over half of the voting governors actually put a question to the panel in order for a panel to convene. And what we have had is 22 inquiries from individuals or groups of governors without the mandate of the whole governing body. But that doesn't mean they don't get a response and they don't get answered. It just means that a panel isn't convened. And often they receive answers to their questions, but it's more likely to be signposting or information. Another remit of the panel is to look at any trends and themes that come across from the questions that are asked and actually feed that back into governor development. So I am a member of the Governor Support Group, which has myself, NHS providers, Department of Health, Monitor and CQC, all involved in actually looking at how we can develop and help governors to fulfil their statutory duties. A lead governor or a governor would write to me and say, we've had a meeting and here is the evidence to support the fact that over 50% of the governors voting said they would like to put a question to you, and here is our question. Now, how they've actually collected that vote, it can either be at a meeting, it could be by email. As long as they can evidence it, then we'll take it on. And depending on what the question is, depending on the expertise and skills that I will group together, in order to have a panel that meets. We'll be looking at the question that they've given us and then the information they've given us, and we will decide whether we need more information, and we may go back to the trust for that information, and they are obliged to give it to us. And we try, if it's straightforward, to turn around and answer within 28 days, a month. But obviously if we have to go externally, which we can do, if it's a very complicated question and we find actually we need external legal advice, for example, then I would let the trust know and the governors know that actually it's likely to be a delayed response because we've had to go externally, and we have a budget in order to do that. So that's the process, and all the forms for putting a question in and referring a question are on the website, as well as all the information of all the panel members, etc. If the governor thinks that their trust is going to be or is in breach of its own constitution is really important, and also if it's failing to fulfil the duties that have been conferred on a foundation trust under the 2006 NHS Act. It all sounds very legalistic. But what that means in practice is that we would expect to get questions about significant transactions, mergers, acquisitions, failure or potential failure in health quality standards, financial difficulties and failure to actually achieve the financial goals that you put forward. It can cover a whole plethora of everything, because in most trust constitution, every trust constitution, it refers back to the NHS constitution, and in that is a duty to provide free at the point of need, high quality healthcare, which can cover absolutely everything. But the inquiries we have received have been about significant transactions. Quite increasingly are coming up as more and more trusts are finding that perhaps they're too small to survive, and they need to think about how they can amalgamate or partnership or merge or acquire to give themselves that body of, if you like, financial weights that they can actually become sustainable. And we're getting more of those. What sort of information should we be receiving? How can we tell whether the trust's plan to merge or acquire is the right thing for the patients that we serve? Those sort of questions, and also simple questions about what does a lead governor do, because it's very vague in all the statutory information that's out there. It's just simply a conduit for monitor, as set in the Code of Governance, but actually trusts have taken it on to mean a lot more. So it's questions like that, and questions about how do we fulfil our statutory duties in holding to account, and we're not sure that we do it properly. They may not be questions alluding to failure of constitution, but if you send it to us, you will get a reply, and you will be signposted so you have the right information, or information that will help you. The important thing to really push is the fact that they need to discuss and have a really positive dialogue with their own board of directors before they come to us, because often these queries and inquiries can be sorted out if the two work well together. I think it's crucial, and is increasingly becoming more important, because foundation trust in the NHS is under an awful lot of stress and strain at the moment, and those people that are leading trusts are finding it increasingly difficult financially and quality-wise to keep up with the demand that's coming in. And it means that the governors are being asked and are presented with information which is often quite complex, quite difficult, and there are large transactions that are going ahead. So it's even more important that they have access to independent advice away from their own trust, away from the regulators. And the hope is that actually it would mean that there's less inquiries and are being sent to the regulator, CQC or monitor, that they're able to get independent advice before that happens.